I am Andrew Leduc,
That's what I love.
Mr. Mallard. Join me as always, Mr. Chief of Morale himself, Bud Copeland. Bud, how are you this evening before we get
So the point being is, good golfers are a fucking dime a dozen, and we saw it in full swing that the line of demarcation between.
here? Are you ready, Bud? Are you ready for the players? Are you ready to make money? Are you ready to try to beat me?
I didn't do my homework this week.
And I know the man who's done his homework this week is Bud Copeland, because it's Ryder Cup week. That's right. We made it. We've been talking about it for a few weeks now. It's finally here. This is Divots and Pivots. I am Andrew Leduc, a.k.a. Mr. Mallard. And to my left, my right, I'm backwards right now, so who knows, is, as always, is Bud Copeland, Chief of Morale, USA. Let's go, Bud. What are you doing tonight? How you feeling?
I'm good. We're on the uptick. It was a little scary there. I don't know if you caught the end of the Solheim Cup last week, but it was a freaking we got a guest in the studio tonight. It was a heartbreaker. It was so tough. We jumped out to an early 4-0 lead. We swept the Friday morning foursomes, and then just slowly but surely the Europeans chipped away. And you really, Spike Lee, do you remember, here we go, rabbit hole. Do you remember the 2004 Red Sox?
Do I?
Right. Okay. So here's the thing. That's when I kind of officially jumped ship from. I grew up down in the Southeast, and I was a Braves fan. I mean, there was nothing south of the Mason-Dixon or east of the Mississippi.
Well,
except
the '90s was a great time to be a Braves fan too.
And it was dope. It was a lot of fun, especially with you got Prime Time doing his thing in Colorado. Yeah, I that was like peak fandom for me with the Braves, and so that was the year when they went on that run. I remember, at the fraternity house watching these games and just going nuts because it was incredible theater. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of when I got bit by the bug of New England and Boston. I'd been coming up here in the summer times at that point. I had gone home and started talking about, Maine as if Maine was my new home. And they're like, you still have a Florida driver's license. I'm like, don't talk to me like that. I know my New England.
You saying you got the fever pitch?
Oh no, you didn't. That movie was horrible.
I know.
But in the 4 Days in October documentary, the 30 for 30,
yes, Spike
Lee says it. He's like, this is why sports is greater than movies, because you can't script this. We have no idea what is going to happen. And that was true for the Solheim Cup, but it felt like it was scripted because for the first time it was in continental Europe, or it was down in Spain. And at Finca Cortazan in Andalusia, Spain. There you go. Another one for you. And it all came down to basically, Nelly Korda had to win her match for USA to win the Solheim Cup. Yeah. Europeans had the cup. They had won it twice in a row, and we need to win it outright. And so she's clawing her way back. She ties it up on 15, and then all of a sudden loses 16 to be one down. And then on 17, her opponent, who went 4-0 on the week and is from Spain, so the hometown crowd is just going absolutely apeshit. She throws a dart to 3 feet. Nelly hits it left of the green, can't hold her chip. God, I can't remember her name right now. It's escaping me. But the Spaniard wins it for the Euros, and so it was heartbreak for the Americans to start the week. But I think we've kind of washed ourselves of that. We get another shot at the Solheim Cup next year. They're going back-to-back years to get back on their even number kind of cycle. 9/11 threw them off cycle, and then COVID threw the PGA Tour off cycle. And so now we have to do this whole, flip around thing. So we get another shot at the Euros next year at the Solheim Cup. But first, our boys are in Rome. This thing has turned into, I don't know how much, I know you're elbow deep in the football season, and I respect that.
Oh,
but
the grind so far.
The production behind this whole this event, the Italian Golf Federation has done a hell of a job putting on this production. It's pageantry, the setting. We'll talk about the golf course and a little bit of the history behind that here in a couple minutes. But this is getting to be a big deal. And so I take umbrage, sir, and I'm going to take umbrage early in the show with somebody from the Fire Pit Collective. I can't remember the guy's name, but he wrote a piece recently. The Fire Pit Collective, for the uninitiated, is Alan Shipnick. That's his like crew. That if you're familiar with politics, like Ben Shapiro's got the Daily Wire.
This is one of those guys that Bud will talk about forever. Is Alan.
I love him. I think he's fantastic.
I know
He's done deep dives on stuff. But anyways, he's got a crew. He's got a posse.
Before you go too far down that rabbit hole, it was Carlota Chaganda.
Yes, Carlota Saganda. Thank you. Thank you. Very much a Scarface type name.
I had to look her up because I feel like we got to give her due. So
yeah, and she's been around a hot minute, so you got to feel like this is going to be kind of the crowning achievement in her career on the personal side. Professionally, she's won a bunch on tour. But
Alan,
what the hell? You just cut me off. What were we talking about?
I'm sorry.
The Italian Golf Federation Ryder Cup this week.
You're talking about somehow you got onto Alan.
Alan Shipnick. Thank you. The Fire Pit Collective. He's got a guy on there that wrote a piece basically that the Ryder Cup is over as we know it, and he's trying to use live as that wedge. Now
that makes sense.
I will say it's not a great look when the team playing. No. Did you see that picture? The team playing picture.
I haven't seen the picture.
So
I'm gonna look it up as always. I've had a bit of a disheveled week and a little jumbled week. I barely about 20 minutes ago got my internet working on this computer to do the show. So,
thank you for your.
It's been a wild week.
Thank you for your service. So the team plane comes over with Team USA, and there's some cool social media shots of them in their little business class suites and their first class suites. And Zach Johnson's got his carry-on, which is the Ryder Cup. And they're taking pictures as they come off with the wags and their wives and girlfriends for the uninitiated again. And I'm counting heads, and I'm like, "Where's Brooksy?" And it hits me. I'm like, Brooks isn't on the team plane. He's not. And for a half second, I thought to myself, "Is this really how it's going to be? Is it going to be that petty?" Where we're going to, because of our side is very much a, USGA, PGA of America, PGA Tour, whether whoever has what official rights, it's a team effort by those crew to put together a team. They leaving this guy out? No, he was at the Live Golf event in Chicago, so I guess he had to just take a later flight and join them over there, which, I'm sure NetJets just hooked him up, and him and his baby mama, wife, Jenna Sims, congratulations to them. Brooksy's a new father. That's what I'm going to be interested to see is, throughout, that'd be a fun study to look at, just the before and after athletes when they had their first kid. What is the average effect of a child on performance, however you define performance?
That's a hell of a hole to go, research hole to go down. But it's you hear the storyline in professional sports so much that it could be worth it. It could be worth it just from an interesting perspective.
But before all that happens, let's get back to the Ryder Cup. All right, where do you want to start with this? I will tell you, like how I asked you a question and then just cut you off before you had a chance to answer. You're a gem for putting up with me. Hi, Cooper. I see you.
Hi, Cooper.
Andrew says hi. Our boys from over at One Night in Pinehurst had me on, and I was their court jester to entertain them about the Ryder Cup and hopefully drop a little bit of knowledge or some perspective, because you're right. I have been nerding out on this for the last couple of weeks. And hi, kid. And so we got into it a little bit yesterday. But one of the things I took away from their show is, remember I told you I know absolutely next to nothing about sports betting. When I say next to nothing, I mean there's like knowledge, there's like periphery knowledge, there's people who know how to log into DraftKings, and then there's me. And I did finally kind of get a quick education on the plus minus. So when we look at some of these bets and these prop bets later, I finally did get a little bit of background on that. I understand it well enough to know that bigger means more and what the plus and the minus mean. So I guess I'm on the right track.
That's a solid start.
But some of these bets are going to be influenced by the course. And this Marco Simone course is outside of Rome. They keep one of the things you'll hear about, and if you have this on your bingo card, then you're a step ahead, but 10 miles from city center. That's what they keep saying. It's 10 miles from the city center of Rome. Which, I guess you have to give a frame of reference, but that's going to annoy me. But yeah, 10 miles outside of the city center of Rome, Marco Simone was named for whatever, nobleman, prince, lord, whatever, 500 years ago, bought the property and then built a bunch of, built a big manor around it, whatever. It was designed by Jim Fazio, which is father. His son, Tom Fazio, is slightly a little more well-known, but Jim Fazio is the pater familias of the Fazio design family. And they brought Tom back to when they redid this course in 2018 as part of the Italian Golf Federation's pitch to say, hey, we want the Ryder Cup. And for folks who don't know, it kind of works similar to the Olympics, where different cities and countries or entities basically put sales pitches together to the governing bodies of the Ryder Cup. So that'd probably be like, the RNA, the DP World Tour, the USGA,
figure it out years in advance, and they give them time to plan.
Yeah, and so part of that is going to be, this is a short course, like you and I were texting the other day. It's a short course, 7,100 yards, par 71. But the fun thing about it is there's a ton of elevation change, and that's going to impact this week in two different ways. First of all, the elevation change for a lot of holes means these are drivable par fours. I saw a stat somewhere out there that 4 of the last 8 holes provide eagle opportunities, because you have a handful of drivable par fours and a reachable par 5 in there. And not to mention you have a 150-yard par 3. So the back 9 is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I don't think front 9 leads are going to be safe. Yes, I did absolutely cop that from whatever article I read earlier, but
sorry,
but the excitement's going to be there, and they've built this thing up like a stadium, like a Coliseum. There's another reference you're going to hear the entire time, because Coliseum in Rome. So I think it's going to be a fun watch. I think we are favored a little bit on paper, as we see in the odds, but I think that's just traditional, Western Hemisphere. Well, I guess they're in the Western Hemisphere. No, they're not.
Well, yeah, they it's minus 110 favorites right now for USA. Europe's plus 115. So I mean, it's all close enough.
Yeah, it's not too far from a coin flip.
Yeah.
But the way that the course is set up, and so we talk about, the Italian Golf Federation got to pitch it, and then the Europeans, we had the thing with Live Golf, and that's what this writer was talking about. It all started with when Henrik Stenson got the boot from the Ryder Cup captaincy. Because he went to Live. And the point this guy was trying to make is between not having Phil Mickelson as kind of a captain's presence for the next few years until all this dust settles, if ever, to not have people like Ian Poulter and what's his chubby face? Never won a major. Lee Westwood.
Lee Westwood,
and Louis Oosthuizen. When you have those guys who, again, would be those either some seasoned vets, or Sergio, that seasoned vet, or maybe just a vice captain. When you remove them, he's saying, well, now we've kind of bastardized the process, or now it's been cheapened. I don't think so. I really don't. And I think the numbers are going to show that people are going to tune in anyway. I don't think you're going to have the big Bryson boycott because he didn't get a phone call. Boo-hoo. I mean, this is kind of life. It's like, I do think people like Dustin Johnson even entertaining the question of, would you have made the team if you were still on the PGA Tour? Yeah, I for sure would have. Why don't you just say, well, I'm not. So, we don't know. Like, I'd like to think I was, but
that's the thing.
This is going to move on without you.
That's where it comes back to me being like, where I do go back to just having that annoyance about Live Golf sometimes is it's almost like they like to. Sometimes they like to pull the drama in and make it when they don't have to, like saying something like when you could easily just pivot and be the professional and just be like, nah, I'm not on the team though, so let's move on to next week. Because then that gives you the opportunity to then boast about the next Live Golf event. Like, you can pivot into that easily. Now I'm just focused on the next event. It's going to be here. It's going to be like, you then have the chance to talk up your event and talk up your league. But the second you give the media that line, they're not going to hear anything else you say. They're going to be focused on that.
Yeah, and I am being
it's annoying. It's just suck it up.
But I read that, and it's like, hot take, another traditionalist who's like, whoa, the days. He is right. This is a new era of the Ryder Cup. I mean, we're half the team are captain's picks now, and I think you're going to see that moving forward. Maybe it might drop back to 4, but half the teams are captain's picks, and that's a big deal on this one because the Americans are going to this place blind. I mentioned Marco Simone, the host course. It's like a resort, basically. It's got a championship course and then a 9-hole like resort course. And the championship course, once it was identified, then they go to work. And Luke Donald, the captain, has a lot of say in how this thing gets set up, how narrow the fairways get cut in the landing areas. Where do they want to grow the rough out? Where do they want to move some of these bunkers around when they were doing the redesign? He was part of all those conversations. And he can even kind of have some say, in where these teeing grounds get set up. But I learned something new today because I was just thinking to myself, like, how far does that go? Does he get to actually set the pins? I mean, is it that loaded? No. So the host country does get to determine the order of play. And for the first time in something like 30 years, they're going to do foursomes in the morning both days. So they do get to determine which order that goes in. And a quick refresher for you, foursomes is alternate shot, and four ball is what we would call best ball. And, you just literally think of how many actual golf balls are in play at a time. If there's four of them, it's the best ball. If there's two of them, that's why it's called whatever the hell I just said. It's foursomes because there's four people playing with two balls. But they're going to lead off with foursomes both days. And so this all kind of comes to a head when you consider the elevation changes, the types of players that you need to put out there early in the morning with the foursomes versus the types of guys you just want out there for morale, or the fact that it's Scotty Scheffler. You're not going to sit them. I don't know if a ton of guys are going to be playing all 5 matches because this is apparently a pretty taxing course to walk. Again, elevation changes like 60, 110 feet. I think the 18th hole is 585 or 590 yards, something like that, par 5. And it's going to be playing a little bit into the wind, apparently, coming off the Mediterranean. Look at me dropping geography. But they said it's downhill like 115 feet. So we're talking about that 18th at Kapalua field where these guys can just sling it out there, and hopefully it's going to provide some pretty exciting finishes for any of those matches that do go the distance. And
those singles matches are going to be great because one guy walks up on some of those drivable holes and with driver in hand and hits a good one out there, then the next guy is like, well, screw laying up now, like I got to take a shot too. It's going to create a ton of drama. I'm so excited.
And it's another thing about singles. I was doing some research because you're going to hear this story this week. The concession to Jack Nicklaus, 1969, him and Tony Jacklin. USA has the cup. Basically, Tony Jacklin has to win the 18th hole against Jack Nicklaus. Jacklin had won the Open that year. Nicklaus is a rookie. They're all square. And then when Nicklaus makes his par putt and basically keeps the cup for the Americans, because now Jacklin's got a 3-footer for par, he just picks up Jacklin's mark, and it was like everybody's going nuts. Apparently, the captain at the time was like, "What the hell was that?" And Nicklaus was intentional about it. He said, he's playing. We're in England. He's a British guy. He just won the Open Championship. Why? The worst thing that could happen for us is he makes it, but we keep the cup. The worst thing that could happen for him is this guy just gets embarrassed in front of me. Like, why? Who cares? Let's move on. The game was over at that point.
Yeah. The winner's decided. It makes sense.
And I think you're going to see a lot of that this week. I mean, we don't have any Patrick Reeds out there. I think you'll see folks try to make a monster out of Tyrrell Hatton. Tyrrell, as we've talked about before, but that's just his passion. There's rumor that there's going to be a Tyrrell Hatton John Rahm pairing going around, and you want to talk about a couple of guys that if they get a head of steam going, they're going to be hard to stop. If you look at the practice mat pairings today, you also had Victor Hovland and John Rahm in the same foursome, and that's another pairing there where that's a lot of firepower. And also, I go back to we're guests. So on the flight over for a couple weeks ago, they all came and played a practice round. I didn't realize none of these guys had never been here before, so they're out there kind of fresh. That can go one of two ways. If it really is a super challenging, got to know the local knowledge, Augusta type feel vibe, or, then that could screw these guys. If it is kind of a little more fair, which you think it might be being a resort course, but they do play the Italian Open there. Who knows? Maybe sometimes it's kind of like you're just playing a game of pickup basketball. It favors you when you're not on your home court. But all of the guys on the European side know this course, have played here. Bob McIntyre actually won the Italian Open when it was hosted here a couple years ago. So home field advantage definitely to them. They're going to set it up what favors them, which is going to be accuracy and shot making, as opposed to our bomb and gougers who can just get hot, throw darts with wedges. All that said, leading with foursomes both days is something that does entertain me. I don't know if I'm going to have the strength to get up that early both days and watch them both. I do have the Tournament of Champions myself on Saturday. I intend to put my name on another trophy this summer. #Club
There
Champ.
we go. I will also be playing Saturday.
Hey,
but for a lot less stakes, just at Whippoorwill and Hudson.
I love Whippoorwill. Cool whip.
So
what is it about the Ryder Cup? When you hear Ryder Cup, what jumps to your mind first?
It's the fandom. Like for me, it's just the whole experience of a massive group of people backing like I said, because that's the thing in golf, you don't typically get that, where the masses are supporting one person or one group of people. Everyone's in golf.
I never thought about that.
Like in golf, it's one of those where, like, sure, you're probably rooting for one guy, but you're also probably rooting for like 10, 15, 20 guys, like, because you just like a lot of guys, and you like, that's how I feel a lot when I'm watching a regular tournament. I'm like, yeah, I really want this guy to win, but I'm fine if this guy wins. I'm also fine if this guy, like, because you don't really hate anyone in golf. I mean, maybe one or two guys here and there, but it's easy to cheer for whoever. The Ryder Cup, the Ryder Cup, though, this is all about backing your boys, and I feel like you can always feel every time I watch it on TV, because I've obviously never been to one. You can feel that fandom coming through the TV, whether it's the hometown crowd or the people who traveled, like those galleries following those teams around. It's just noticeable, and that's why I love sports. I've always loved sports for the fandom, for the energy, for the atmosphere, and this is like the one time golf gets that.
And I never thought about it that way, where this is where, by the way, this is why team golf only works in this style or format when you have I think this guy has the monopoly on our brains, which is why we're not opened up to four guys called the Fireballs in matching bowling outfits going out there playing. I mean, it's stupid. I think this Ryder Cup, and the reason I brought up the Fire Pit Collective piece, I think he's right. The old Ryder Cup is dead, but I don't think so in the way that he meant it. I think that we kind of set a bar with the display and the crowds at Whistling Straits a couple of years ago. I mean, that was huge. I mean, JT and Jordan out there shotgunning beers since they're not playing the afternoon. I mean, it was a vibe, as the kids would say.
I know, but it's so true. But I hate that word works here, but it does.
No, it's a total vibe. It's a total vibe.
You just made it so much worse. And just go back to
vibe. But in golf, there are rarely. I mean, there are times when it's like Tiger at Pebble in 2000 when he was going for that record. That was everybody was just on Team Tiger. You're just watching history in the making. There was Thigala a couple of weeks ago, basically a California kid in front of a home crowd where everybody was kind of on the same side. Like, we all know what we're doing here. And
those moments come, but they don't. But those moments typically
or married to one of the other players, we're all rooting for this guy right here.
But those moments don't typically come until Sunday in those instances, because the whole 3 days before leading up to Sunday, it's an unknown. You don't know if it's worth, like, I hate to put it this way, but it's almost like you don't know if it's worth putting the energy into the attention that's needed to follow it, because at least on that one guy, because you don't know if he's even gonna be in position come Sunday. But so Sunday is when that stuff happens for sure. We get it every day this weekend.
Exactly, because every single in match play, every hole counts. There is no, the stakes are higher in every single round. And to have it where the crowd does get divided, not for a person, but like, it just makes it simple. You're either on this side or that side. It makes it binary, which is very much kind of the root of all battle and Coliseum type behavior. You down in the pit, one of you walks away. And that's, I mean, that I like that that's the feel it's going to be. There's going to be high emotions. You're going to see a lot of fist pumping and screaming and chest bumping. And it's all going to be, I think, in good faith. I think Brooksy is going to take some shots from the crowd. I think our guys are going to catch a lot of hell from the crowd, because, I mean, we not necessarily. I think it's just going to be like waste management, where they might have some personal information about you and just be yelling.
Hey, but I'm there for that. Give me the creative jabs at the players. Like, that's fun.
Yes.
Just don't cross the line of being a dick about it. But you find some fun stuff on the internet that you want to embarrass the guy with, sure, go for it. I'm all for that.
Right. You find out that somebody was Mr. Personality of their high school or something like that. And you just say like, hey, Mr. I do too. But when you said the fans or the fandom of it all, that's not where my brain was going, but I guess it kind of was, because I was thinking of specific Ryder Cups. Is there a Ryder Cup moment that, I mean, I know you're not into it to the depths of me, but is there anything like that you can think of beyond the last Ryder Cup that jumps out at you?
Probably not, if I'm being honest.
What? Like, I got to know what I'm dealing with here. This is how raw you are with Ryder Cup history.
With history, yes. With the history of it all, yes.
Oh, geez. All right. Never mind then. So 1999 then, Brookline, Massachusetts, the country club, the setting and everything. that one, I was actually at a baseball tournament. I think it was a wooden bat baseball tournament in somewhere in Western Florida, Pensacola or Panama City. And my mom, it was a Sunday afternoon. We were playing in the second or third game of the day. It was one of those high school things. You play in like 3 games a day. You're just going the whole time. My mom actually had it on a little 2-inch handheld black and white like TV that she got from Radio Shack to be able to watch the U.S. Open one year when she was traveling. She was a nut about that kind of stuff, and she loved gadgets.
I love it.
I actually was watching that Justin Leonard putt that essentially didn't seal it because Olazabal had a putt, but basically put him on the ropes, and it was the knockout blow eventually for our comeback that year when nobody had made it. I think we were down 4 or 4.5 points, and in the history of the Cup at that point, 70 some odd years, nobody had come back from that. And, if you had to be within 2 points or 3 points traditionally to have a fighting chance on Sunday. And Ben Crenshaw famously ends his press conference, said, I got a funny feeling about tomorrow. That's all I'm going to say about that. And then he just kind of walked, don't count us out, basically. I got a funny feeling about tomorrow. And it set the stage. Justin Leonard, sinks the putt. And that was the first time that I think, blows had been thrown since the War on the Shore, Kiowa Island, 1991. That's a great book, by the way. If you ever wanted to immerse yourself into some Ryder Cup lore, that specific Ryder Cup was, it was everything. It was epic. It was gritty. It was bloody, metaphorically speaking, of course. And it was on this brand new design that was just being kind of unveiled to the world. It was a Lynx style setting here in America with something we hadn't really seen before. Yeah. But the 1999, all of a sudden the team comes on the putting green. Olazabal still has to putt. Our people are already popping champagne. Is there ever a moment? I think about the Pats 28-3. When you make one of those comebacks, the Red Sox in 2004, when you overcome something that hasn't been done before, outside of direct personal attacks, do you need to say, excuse me, or do you have to apologize for your behavior, or is it no holds barred?
Like, as far as from a fan standpoint, celebrating, or do you mean like if you're the player, like in the moment, like? I guess it doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter because my answer is no. There's no apology needed, no matter what. Like, that is an absolute, like, you climb the mountain, you hit the peak, and I feel like you have that you make that accomplishment. You are allowed to scream as loud as you want. You are allowed to dance as wild as you want. It doesn't matter. That's your moment. You earned it.
All right. So we talked about the format. We talked about the location, so to speak. I brought up the Battle of Brookline. That was just an incredible, the absolute bottom of the barrel worst golf shirts I have ever seen in my entire life. They look like wallpaper from the inside of a country club, which I think maybe was the kind of angle they were going for, but it was piss poor and it was awful. That said, the El Tigre doesn't exactly have the best Ryder Cup record.
So he doesn't. Yeah, that's something that I don't know what his actual numbers are. I could look those up real fast, but I just know that in the past when I have watched when he's been involved, I remember leaving watching his matches feeling a little disappointed.
The Googler is spitting out 13, 21, and 3.
Yeah, that's actually a lot worse than I thought, honestly.
That's wild.
I thought he was closer to 50-50, if I'm being honest.
Well, he's because he had also how many match play wins throughout the years. He did win a handful of those WGC match plays, but also he has his 6 consecutive USGA, the US Junior and the US Amateur.
Sure.
I guess that was kind of shocking. I know he's done a little bit better in the President's Cup, but when do you want to see Tiger Woods as a Ryder Cup captain?
Because he's going to be at some point. Like, I don't know. Give me another 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Because I think what we need to see is I think we're pretty much there now. But what we need to see is the hope of a 2018 Masters moment to be completely gone. Like we need that to be to know that he's never gonna play like that again. So just move on to the captaincy at that point in my eyes. And I'm curious to see. Like, I don't think I think that moment's already come and gone, honestly. But if depending on if he sets his schedule right to where he's just playing the majors, and who knows, maybe he can still perform well enough to where it keeps that hope alive for some people over the next couple of years. Why? Where are you on that?
I think he's going to be the next captain.
You think he's right away?
I think you are right that he's going to continue to play the majors. I still think that he might sneak another Masters here or there, because again, that's one of those courses that just lends itself to repetition and experience. And
sure.
We saw how awful it was for him to try to trudge through that place this year, but that's why he went and got the surgeries, and he's getting better. But I think we'll see him as the next Ryder Cup captain, because maybe Phil was in line for that spot until Liv happened. And it's going to be at Bethpage Black, which Tiger famously won that U.S. Open, the People's Open. I think the public course.
I think that U.S. Open might have been when I really fell in love with golf. I think that was the first one at Bethpage Black that I found myself completely glued to every shot every day for some reason. I don't know why, but that's like my first memory of like really watching like the entire thing.
That's funny, because that I actually didn't. I want to say I did not watch those U.S. Opens because I was working at summer camp, and so let me see what that. Yeah, that was
about right.
Yeah, right. Bethpage Black 2002. Yeah, so that would have been my first summer at camp. That was actually the first major that I missed in my life up to that point, since I was conscious, in the 86 Masters, which I cling to, but I still think it's just my brain playing tricks on me.
I was working at JG's ice cream stand in Methuen, Mass when on that final round, and then the extra round on Monday morning there as well. I was working both of those days and was watching on the tiny little tube TV up in the corner for the employees, praying nobody came to the window to get ice cream, because I just wanted to stand there and watch it.
One more fun TV story, and then we can hit up our friends at Underdog.
Yes.
Open Championship 90, I want to say it was 99, the Jean Van de Velde meltdown. Watched that on a little 10-inch TV at a starter's hut at a club outside of Detroit when I was on a road trip with my parents back in high school. I remember I was brooding over not being able to be home and hang out with my girlfriend, and I just I silently moped in the back of the car as we drove around the beautiful state of Michigan and played golf and stayed with family and friends on Lake Michigan and stuff. And I'm like, you just
want to be with your girl.
I want to be home. And I was listening to I'll never forget. I was listening to the American Pie soundtrack, just on a loop. That, and then I would sprinkle it in with some Disney Hercules. I was really big into that soundtrack too.
Okay, Disney Hercules. That's not a bad soundtrack. Overlooked in the world of Disney soundtrack.
Go the Distance is. I mean that'll pull you out of a slump. Like if I'm going to say Disney songs to play in the locker room before the Ryder Cup, which at the very beginning I talked about, in the intro, I always mentioned we saw it in full swing. We're not going to see a lot in full swing from this Ryder Cup. I guess they said no, but not behind the scenes anyway.
Interesting.
You're not in the locker room. You're not with the team, doing this, that, and the other. This, which I like. I think that's kind of okay to draw a boundary sometimes and just be like, no, we're here for business. This is bigger than any one of us, and we appreciate what you're doing, that kind of stuff. I'm sure they're there. They have to be there. They're covering it just like anybody else.
Of course.
But yeah, we're not going to see a ton out of Full Swing, but I am looking forward to see the next season of Full Swing. All right, why don't we take our break? We'll come back, look at some players, look at some bets, talk a little bit more about the course, and get some predictions.
Yes, we will. We'll be right back.
Fantasy Sports Corp and Underdog Fantasy have teamed up to start your fantasy season off in the win column with Best Ball. What is Best Ball? It's quite simply the easiest way to win. No team management, no trades, no waivers. It's their biggest contest ever, and it has only gotten bigger. You simply have to sit and win. You don't even have to set your lineup. Always get your best score every week. Just enter a contest, draft your team, and Underdog will do the rest. What could make this even better? How about free money, up to $100 using our exclusive promo code? Go online now and use the promo code DIVPIV to double your deposit up to $100. You tell them Gingerbread sent you. Good girl.
And that's going to be a great place you can go over and bet for the Ryder Cup. I believe they have some tournaments up for that, but that'll be interesting drafting players in that snake style for the Ryder Cup, because with the matches, we'll see how that all plays out. But you mentioned it. Let's talk a little bit. Let's jump into a little bit of bets real fast here, because as always, there's a lot. We already touched on the overall tournament winner, USA favorite right now on DraftKings at -110. Europe +115. Which, if history is telling you anything with where this is being played, Europe seems like a great bet to have it plus money right now. But I do kind of think the setup favors the U.S. team play style a little bit better. So 110 is still fine with me. But hell, you can bet everything as far as total halved matches, which is right now over under 3.5. There's different team props to see like which team to lead first, US or Europe, which is pretty much even odds right now. There's everything on here that you can do. Race to 5 points, race to 10 points. Once we have the matchups set, you're going to be able to go on and bet the individual matchups as well. So we need that information first, but it's going to be a while. If you're a betting man, the Ryder Cup is, or woman, the Ryder Cup is a hot ticket item for you to just get in there and have a lot of action all at once, finishing at different times and making a lot of money.
I'll tell you where I'm going to be interested to have a little fun is these daily session winners. So basically once we know some matchups, getting in there and we know what the foursomes matchups are going to be like Friday morning, getting in there and trying to predict what's the final score going to be. Is it going to be European taking the session 3? So basically you're just trying to pick the correct score at the end of each day. I mean, this is borderline Super Bowl squares type stuff. At the end of the first quarter, the score is going to have a 7 in it or something like that. The overall points bet is something that, again, I'd be leery of, given what you don't know about who's going to play how much. I wouldn't be putting money on Bobby McIntyre to be the top earner out there, because again, he might be one of those guys for Europe who only sees one session outside of Sunday singles. Remember, everybody's going to play Sunday, and
everybody does.
And it's kind of cool how they do it with the lineups. They don't. The President's Cup has fun with it, and it's a live draft. Basically, they announce who's going out. Team USA putting out first, Dustin Johnson, and it's like, international squad, Adam Scott. It's a pretty cool thing. These guys basically put it in an envelope and hand it in, and so they don't know who's going, who they're putting against. They just position, basically you go on the bookends. Depending on your score scenario, though, assuming it's all tied, or even if you're within a couple points, you want to get points early, and then you want to make sure you have some hammers at the end. Because if this thing like Nelly Korda in the Solheim Cup comes down to one person, I'll tell you what, I want Brooksy with a club in his hand. If everything's on the line, him or Justin Thomas, I think that they've just proven themselves under that kind of pressure and heat, time and time again. I loved it. Did you see Rory? Somebody asked Rory, what did you think about Justin Thomas being a captain's pick?
No, I didn't see that either. Like I said, my head's been buried the last week.
Enough with your excuses. No, he just goes, he's like, yeah, it's a no brainer. So I think if anybody,
they all know.
Yeah, I think the real kind of spotlight's going to be on Shane Lowry to see what kind of performance he puts out there, because he's under a little bit of scrutiny. Definitely being kind of the jolly, get along with the guys, knows the team, knows the vibe pick, versus, again, Adrian Marunk, who's the DP World Tour player. We've been big on him when he's made some appearances in the States, because he's pretty good. He won the Italian Open at this course earlier this year. I mean, that to me is a little bit of a head scratcher, and he was in good form, and he was just shy on the points. So, I mean, not having a guy who won here, but again, you
said Bob McIntyre had won at 1.2. So they could have had two guys on the Europe team.
Right.
So let's go.
But it's match play. Victor Hovland was out there kind of saying he doesn't like the course. He's like, I remember playing it. He's like, I don't like this course very much. He goes, but that's for stroke play. He's like, match play, this sets up kind of interesting. He's like, I think it's really interesting. You got blind tee shots, you got blind approach shots, you've got a plenty reachable par 5s and 4s. And again, how they have this setup working 4 of the last 8 holes are going to be real scoring opportunities where
Yeah.
par could easily lose you the hole and is not safe at all, which I guess when you get with these guys as good as they are, par is never really safe. But the foursomes, I keep going back to those foursomes because that's going to separate the men from the boys. I think not anybody can go out there in best ball, but in best ball, it does get back to that. I'm gonna play my game, you play your game. These guys, I don't think are approaching best ball as much like you and I, where it's like, oh shit, my partner just hit in the water. Oh man, I better club down and make sure that I just take double bogey out of play and really try to put a score on the card, not fuck us overall. I mean, there might be an element to that, but by and large, these guys are so good that nothing's going to change. I'm going to play my ball and do my thing, and we're just going to try to make as many birdies as humanly possible. Mm-hmm. So the foursomes is going to be where everything gets separated, and that's why I think I'm going to have a lot of fun looking at those foursomes correct scores and trying to make some predictions there, because
Well, I was just looking at the top point scorer, and I think my favorite one right here is Xander at plus 1,200. I kind of out of that because really after like you mentioned, you don't really know how much some of these guys are going to play. After Brooks Koepka, as far as on the odds, he's at plus 1,400 right now. You're right. After that, Tommy Fleetwood, Max Homa, Colin Morikawa, Tyrrell Hatton, and Jordan Spieth. Like, there's probably going to be some matches that these guys are missing out on. But Xander and Cantley and Victor and Rahm and McIlroy and Scheffler, like, these guys are going to play probably the most out of everybody. And Xander, with his match play history, plus 1,200. I love those odds right there. The one that's also intrigued is the top rookie scorer section. You can bet on just the top rookie, which is a lot of fun because the fact that you've mentioned Bob McIntyre, if Europe does choose to lean on a guy who's had a pretty hot season and has a course history on this, he's the highest odds at plus 1,100 for the top rookie scorer. It's not out of the realm of possibility in my eyes that he outscores in points this week everybody except maybe Max Homa, who's plus 300, but Robert McIntyre at plus 1,100 for a rookie scorer. I feel like that's a great shot to take.
I don't think he's going to be out there enough. I think you're going to see Aberg and Straka out there. I think Højgaard and Bob McIntyre might be out there once. I could be eating my words.
Mm-hmm.
I got my assistant over here complaining.
See, she liked my pick too, so just
that's
get
what
on
she's
board,
telling
bud.
me to. Yeah. Yeah. This is really good entertainment, isn't it?
No, it's great. But I'm cycling through some of the you said what you liked was the 4 balls correct score. That's what you said you liked, right? That section.
4 balls, foursomes actually is what I'm talking about. The alternate shot. I mean, the 4 balls just as much fun.
Oh, there it is. Foursomes correct score. I just had to click one more time. Yeah, the foursomes. You can go foursomes day 1 correct score. Right now, the least odds are tied 2-2 at plus 260, all the way up to Europe to sweep at 4-0 at plus 2,200. I honestly don't see a sweep happening in these groupings. So the USA 4-0 at plus 2,000, Europe 4-0 at plus 2,200. Like, those aren't even considerations to me. I think this is going to be a pretty close back and forth Ryder Cup that we're dealing with. I'm just looking to try to see if there's any good value here. I mean, 2.5 to 1.5 for both sides is plus 550. Like, I could see that happening. I could see that happening. And it's only a little bit less than Europe's 3-1 at plus 500. Like, I don't know. The odds just get a little weird. Well, there.
And also you don't know shit until the matchups are.
So I'm not making any bets right now until we see some matchups. We get a sense of who's going to be playing the most.
I do like the rookie bet. The overall points for the rookie. I mean, I'd hit Aberg for the Europeans there. And where I just had it in front of me, top U.S. rookie, and Sam Burns for the Americans. I know that Wyndham Clark's been kind of flapping his yap a little bit, and he's getting some flack for that. But I love his explanation. He's like, if I don't think I'm better than everybody else out here, then what am I doing here at this level?
Yeah,
I'm
you
like,
have to.
that's
You have to have that attitude.
People just like, again, it was the Brian Harmon effect. We all were like, who the hell's Brian Harmon? Not you and me,
Sure.
especially you. You've been,
but
big
a lot
on
of
Brian
people,
a lot of folks like, who is this guy? Who is this short little lefty who just keeps rolling the rock? But I think Sam Burns for the top U.S. rookie, because he's on the team, because he's Scotty Scheffler's buddy. And I think Scotty is not if anybody's going to go all 5, it might be Scotty, but I don't think so. I think if they'll strategically sit him, let's say we get out to a massive lead real quick. Let's say we have a couple point lead going into the second day. You might see him sit that second day morning round and then play in the afternoon. Or vice versa, depending on how well him and Sam do an alternate shot. I'm just assuming Scotty and Sam are going to play together because that's what the talking heads say. It's kind of like the JT and Jordan Spieth thing. Like, why would you split them up? They're pretty damn good with one another. But in doing that, you are going to limit the amount of times that you see Wyndham Clark or Brian Harmon. I mean, they're going to be the Bob McIntyres of Team USA, in my opinion, unless I don't know something that the captains see out there. I'm just, you got Max Homa and Colin Morikawa, but then again, Colin Morikawa and Patrick Cantlay were just mopping the floor with people last time around.
Yep.
So you got Morikawa and Cantlay, you got Sam Burns and Scotty Scheffler, and you got Justin and JT and Jordan.
Yeah,
then you've got your.
Always
I think Ricky might see 4 or 5 matches because, again, if he's playing well, he's one of the reasons he's on the team is not just because everybody likes him and he's a good guy, is because his game plays well with everybody. He can play with just about anybody else out there.
Yeah, sure. Is there anybody who is, at the top of the list here, your like the favorites in here that you could see playing a small enough amount of matches to strike 0 and score 0 points? Because I'm looking at that right now. You can bet guys to win 0 points for their team.
That's just mean-spirited.
It is just mean-spirited, but it just creates the thinking of, is there anybody you could see being an absolute flop for any of their? Because here's the thing: if one of these guys goes out and say starts off 0-2 in their matches, there's a chance that we're not going to, even if he's one of the top guys on the team, we might not see him again until the singles on Sunday.
I'm looking at the list right now. I could see Max Homa laying an egg.
I was thinking the same thing, and a plus 1,600, like plus 1,600, I might be all right throwing a couple bucks at that.
Because he admits it himself that he sits at that line teetering back and forth between, I'm one of the best players on the planet, and I know it. And what am I doing out here? This game's hard. So if the wheels get a little wobbly, you look up and down. Patrick Cantlay has won a FedEx Cup. Scotty Scheffler, world number 1. Colin Morikawa has won a couple majors. Spieth's won a couple majors. Schauffele's got a gold medal. Brooks Koepka is known for being tough mentally. JT is the same way. Wyndham Clark has got his bona fides after this year, and same with Brian Harmon, major winner himself. That leaves Max Homa and Ricky. Ricky could also maybe all of a sudden it's one of the. I doubt it.
I'd feel more for the same odds. I'd feel more comfortable betting Justin Rose to lay an egg than Ricky, I think.
That's a good point. That's actually a good pull from the European side. On the European side, let's see.
Because I'm just not sure how much we see of Justin Rose this week with the rest of the team. I think maybe we get 2 matches out of him.
That's hilarious. They break this down. You can do the top Great Britain and Ireland point score, the top English point score.
I know it's crazy what you can bet on.
What have I been missing on? What have I been missing out on in the betting world? But looking at the European point scorer side, I think you could see an egg out of Justin Rose. You know what I'm interested to see? This is like, if the gods love me, they will grant this wish. I want Sunday singles to work out that you've got Matt Fitzpatrick and Brooks Koepka, because if there's any live threads to pull on, this would be where Matty Fitzpatrick was on the record at a podcast, and maybe it was in full. It's kind of like up there with the Rory McIlroy, "Fuck you, Phil," like that when exactly on camera, and everybody's like, "Oh shit, what's going to happen?" And that's where you kind of wish that Phil maybe was on the other side. We've got this now, and whether it's in Sunday singles or in any of the 4-ball or foursome matches, I would love to see, because that guys like Brooks and Deion Sanders keeps receipts, right? They
Oh,
have to
yeah.
have something mentally to keep that edge going. God knows that he's got the money. God knows that he's got the girl. God knows that he's got his trophies. He's got the talent. So complacency can set in. Tom Brady was famous for finding every little thing that he could to drive him and think that people were down. I love when those guys, nobody believed in us. Tom, you were literally the favorite from day one. Like Michael Jordan was famous for that too. There's a great story of him in international play where it was early in the dream team, and they get into the huddle, and I guess they're assigning people like, you're going to guard this guy, you're going to guard that guy. And Mike goes, no, I got so-and-so. And I guess Chuck Daly was like, what are you doing? You know, like, or whoever was coaching that team, Pat Riley, Chuck Daly, I can't remember which one. So what are you doing? He's like the third string, this, that, and the other. And apparently MJ just looked at him and was like, yeah, but he said this to his hometown paper, yada, yada, yada. In like some foreign newspaper, he's like, and I'm going to let him know. And so I guess the whole game, he was just beating on this kid. And so they find those little edges. And that's why I want some Matty Fitzpatrick, Brooks Koepka showdown. Please, Lord, if it can happen, that'd be great. Because I think Brooks would. By the way, Matt Fitzpatrick strikes me as it's the perfect David versus Goliath. You've got a linebacker versus the librarian. You know, I mean, you're this scrawny little kid who just got his braces off, figuratively and literally, versus BK. Have it your way, literally. Mr. Florida State. You know, he oozes North Florida frat boy, which is why I think everybody hates him, and which is why I kind of identify with him. So, but Brooksy, I bring up Brooks not just because of the live.
Probably went to camp too.
I never went to camp as a kid. I was playing I was at the Florida State baseball camps or the Clemson baseball camps, or playing travel baseball. I never, or then when I got into high school, all I did was play golf all summer. Now the camp thing was, kind of like seeing Wet Hot American Summer and being like, that looks like fun. I'll try it.
Let me go do that as a job.
It's an intriguing line of work, but Brooksy as the top point scorer is a sneaky dark horse. It's not even a dark horse. He's probably where is he on the USA?
I forget even where it was under
plus 700. So I mean, it's not like it would be unheard of. Although you've quoted some odds that I have different odds in front of me. I don't know if we're both looking at the same ones, but that's neither here nor there.
I'm just looking at DraftKings Sportsbook.
Me as well.
Then I don't know what the hell's going on.
But Brooks is I could be looking at the different bet. There's so many bets here.
Yeah,
you could be looking at four balls, and I would look at foursomes. But Brooksy is the top point scorer. Obviously, Scheffler is the favorite at plus 450. Cantlay and Morikawa are right behind him, and I think for good reason. But then you get into the Brooksy territory. Xander at plus 600 too. So I mean, I
know
the firepower. It's just going to be interesting to see how it all shakes out, because we could be dead ass wrong. And it's like, maybe Wyndham Clark is the fit young stud who has the legs to go 4 or 5 matches. Cause that's what it's going to take. It's going to take legs.
That's another good point. Well, and that's the thing with match play. A lot of it, we see it all the time in the old, WGCs. Like sometimes the winner, seems like it's out of left field, but it's just the guy who catches fire at the right time. And you can't predict that. You can try to look at recent form and history and find all these variables to try to predict it. But odds are it's going to be somebody else, because you just don't know how someone's feeling that day. And that's the thing. You feel good. All it takes is you to feel good on the first day, go out there and do good in your first match. And then from there, it's just, especially in match play, it's just so you have this confidence where you feel like you can beat anybody. And those are the guys that either win those match play tournaments or carry a team in team events like this. It could be anybody.
And confidence and trust, because this is, when you do rely on a partner and it's in the back of your head. Again, I said the 4 balls, they kind of go back into their corners and their own mental zones, because they are just playing their own ball. But half of this competition is the alternate shot, thing. And I was just kind of looking at the team and the walk-ons, the captain's pick, the walk-ons.
Nice.
And all I hope to God is that Ricky Fowler is putting well, because that's one of those things too. Again, I said he's on the team for morale and for his flat stick. And if he brings that, then you can pair him. I was just kind of like, I'm looking at Brooksy going, Brooksy's another one that you can pair him with anyone. You know,
Sure.
he is kind of like a Michael Jordan or a LeBron James. Like, just put me with anybody out there, and we're going to be okay. We're going to win. Like, I got this. I got this enough that all I need is a heartbeat. You know, a professional golfer who can actually I can rely on for 1 or 2 shots, and we're going to be okay. This is so Americentric though, because if you look on the other side, you know, Victor Hovland in the run that he had at the, to close out his season, both over here, and then he played well in the BMW Championship at Wentworth in the Rolex Series. John Rahm has had the year that he's had. He's still John Rahm.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Rory McIlroy is still Rory McIlroy.
Yeah.
You know, Tommy Fleetwood has been at the top of leaderboards recently, and he played well in the DP World Tour events towards the end. It goes on and on. The only person who really doesn't strike fear in my heart is Bob McIntyre, and I feel bad shitting on the kid, but I think it's just because everybody else. Shane Lowry is a major winner. Nikolai Højgaard. I was big on the Højgaard twins a year ago. Remember, I called this.
He's looked good this year.
And his brother actually was higher on the points list. It's just Nikolai's playing better right now. Fun fact, by the way, the captain's picks weren't introduced until the 70s, late 70s for Team Europe. I guess in the USA, we didn't adopt captain's picks until 89. So this thing started in 1927. Yeah. But I'm looking at this and I'm very good year. But I'm looking at this and I'm glad that we do have all these captain's picks. So you do get to capture, people who are in good form versus maybe a guy who had a good first couple months of the season and now is playing piss poor golf. No, Brian Harman. If you want to take
this is just the first.
Open was just the other day. I'm thinking about Adrian Moronk, who did have some wins earlier in the year and then got passed over. But this is a scary, scary, strong European team. And again, Tommy Fleetwood, him and Francisco Molinari went 5-0 in Paris a couple of years ago. So there's, when he's overseas, look out. This is interesting too. This is the first time that we've had back-to-back continental Europe Ryder Cups. We've only had 3 in the continent. We had 97 at Valderrama in Spain, the aforementioned Paris in 2018, and then obviously, we're here for in Rome. And it's going to be interesting to see how many more of these kind of locations pop up in different countries as the game continues to grow and evolve. And I think you'll see it more with the Open Championship kind of having, it's never going anywhere. It's in Great Britain and Ireland. There's some classic sites that require the Ryder Cup, but I think in the idea of growth, you're going to see more creative locations.
Yes, no, I agree. Anything else in the closing minutes on the Ryder Cup, or I got one last pivot quick hit question for you.
Pivot, hit away.
All right, hit me with. I'll hit you with the pivot here. How sick are you already at hearing about Travis Kelce and frickin' Taylor Swift? No, get it out of my football screens. I don't want to fucking hear about it anymore on my broadcasts. I am so annoyed that they're talking about it on games that don't even involve the Chiefs now. The mainstream broadcasters, I don't want to hear about it anymore. I don't want to see any more screenshots of Taylor Swift dancing, cheering for the Chiefs up in the box with Kelsey's family when she's an Eagles fan. First of all, I don't care. I don't care.
I am here for it. Right now I'm speaking directly to Swiftie Nation. Andrew does not speak for the show on this matter. I am the official spokesperson for Divots and Pivots on all things related to Taylor Swift or TMZ. And I will state unequivocally that we are fully supportive of whatever music video they are shooting and using us all as their audience. Or I would love
that. That would be hilarious.
If they're genuinely dating, we wish them all the best. Let us know where you're registered. And did you see Travis Kelce's jersey sales went up 400% after the game?
I'm not surprised. I am not freaking surprised.
Don't fuck with the Swifties.
Swift Nation is they're all gonna be Chiefs fans now. And I'm sorry, but if I was a Chiefs fan, it would annoy the hell out of me. I'd be like, get out of here. You're all fake. You're all fake fans. I don't want nothing to do. You're just here to look at Taylor Swift. Get out of the stadium. I don't want you here.
Tom and Giselle got a divorce. We're like, what in the hell? That was like the one, even though Tom had, Bridget Moynihan's kid and then left her for, that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So they had their divorce. Meghan and Harry went political and, went the royal couple gone bad. And, a lot of people, we're as a society, we are absolutely yearning for a young kind of royal. We don't have royals in this nation, and they're kind of dying out. They're kind of dying out in vogue around the rest of the world as being kind of popular, or at least in the mainstream trendsetters. So this is the closest thing that we get to royalty is celebrity. And sometimes it annoys me, and sometimes I think that I think that Cupid gets it right. And whether or not this is a little fling or if this is the next power couple in Hollywood, I mean, I'm here for it. I think it's great, and I fucking love seeing football players have to answer these types of questions.
I have no issue with them being together, but the fact that the first question off the sideline as Mahomes is coming off the field is something. I forget the exact question, but something along the lines of, "Did you feel extra pressure to get the ball touchdown to Kelsey tonight, knowing that Taylor Swift was watching?" Like, get out of here with that question. No, get out of here with that question. I don't want to hear that answer.
I could do without the punnerific, and this is coming from me, but the punter, every single sports podcast and show was using Taylor Swift lyrics and song titles, to write their copy and their monologues.
Even in the Eagles game on last night, they were showing a side-by-side picture of Jason Kelsey and DeAndre Swift's the back of their jerseys because it said Kelsey and Swift, and then we got our own. I'm like, get the fuck! Like, are you kidding me? Like, this is so cheesy. I want none of it.
Brock Bowers, the all-world tight end for University of Georgia, who's going to be a Heisman finalist unless he gets injured. He got asked about it. And basically, he was kind of laughing at it. I mean, this is where it's gone. And he was actually saying, like, good on you scoring one for the tight ends. He's like, maybe this is good news for our position. We're moving up in the world. I think it's great. This is kind of it's on a.
I'm hating on them. I'm just hating on the media coverage of it. That's all.
Backpedaling already. I knew it.
No. I can't stand media being all into it. I can't. I don't care if they're together. Just don't put it in my face.
You don't piss into the wind. And you don't kick a beehive. You don't fuck with Beyonce's fan base. You don't fuck with Tay-Tay's fan base. And you don't fuck with Team USA when we're trying to break a 30-year drought. I swear to God, Andrew, if we can't take this Ryder Cup home this time, I'm going to have to find – let's be honest. I'll just cry for a little bit, and then we'll be back in a couple of years. But to bring it home, I do think that this is going to be a 13.5, 13.5 kind of a fair, 15-13 at worst. But God, I just pray that I'm wrong or that I'm right, and that I don't wake up, Saturday morning and all of a sudden we're down 9-3 because we've lost 3 sessions in a row. So one stroke at a time, one hole at a time, one session at a time. And if you win each session, you will win the cup. And we need to hold on to this cup. So we really only need 14 points. A tie will do it for us. Yes. And that would be the first time even going over to Europe with the cup and coming back with it in 30 years. So here's the Team USA getting her done this weekend.
Do it. And it's looking like we'll get you guys a time on social shortly in the next coming days. But it's looking like you might be able to. Oh, please give me the finger. Nope. Okay, cool. Never mind. Ignore the description of the show. Enjoy the Ryder Cup.
Enjoy the Ryder Cup. We'll recap next week, and we'll look ahead at the next stop in the fall FedEx Series, and talk about what the future holds for international golf and LIV and the PGA Tour.
Yes, and as always, thank you for joining us. We love you all, and we will see you next week.